What's up, folks? It's the Jeremy Scott program. I learned some bad news yesterday, and I delayed shooting for a day. I couldn't get into the vibe. It was tough. Punchlines Comedy Club in St. John, New Brunswick, is closing its doors. Uh, this hits really close to home for me. It's a club that I aspired to perform at right from the beginning of me doing stand up. I was very fortunate. I was able to perform in that club twice, and then one of their road shows that they did in Fredericton, I got to open for the Danger Cats, and that was a punchline show. But the club itself was just a pure gift to everybody in the community. We are going to miss it dearly. The owners, Dale and Julie, they did everything that a comedy club should do. They made an atmosphere that just doesn't compare. Now, I haven't been to Boston or New York. I haven't even been to Halifax to perform comedy, but something tells me that there's a magic that was there that isn't in most places. So that's that. We all have to struggle. Sometimes the best things that exist, they don't make the cut, right? There are clubs probably that don't do anything right, that just keep going on, and as the saying goes, comparison is the thief of joy. Because looking at what Punchlines did, or looking at what they didn't do and saying like, why didn't it work, I think is like a fruitless venture, because I think they did do all the right things. It's just the community, not the comedy community, but the community in St. John in general, just wasn't there for them. Constantly when I would tell people about shows there, they'd be like, St. John has a comedy club? So that's on St. John. St. John's made mistakes before. I'm not here pointing fingers, but the club was very special. People would often say, yeah, the comedy club is attached to a strip club. And I would always like to think that actually, no, the strip club is attached to a comedy club. And now going forward, it's going to be just a strip club and a dance club. So you maybe go there for the laughs, but you're laughing at someone's expense instead of laughing at, a comedian making jokes, being funny. It's hard. Some good news. New Brunswick's opening up the trails again. There's a lot of ticks out there that haven't been getting the meals that they really want. So now, get out there. There's a lot of hungry ticks. I can't, because of copyright, I can't play Sarah McLachlan, and all these little sad ticks. Like, where are all the hikers that we want to eat? I'm sure we lost a lot of ticks in the fires, and the fires are they're going out. I know you might notice a new desk here, no candles. I don't want to get wax on my nice new to me table. This is a used table. I had to go and get it off the marketplace. I'm a big marketplace buyer, and this table is no different. Funny little backstory about this table. I had to drive way out of town to get the table, and I didn't bring my debit card. I just had enough cash in my pocket to get the table, and then I had some change, and I got out there, and I needed gas. I had my phone as the GPS up on the dash, so I didn't notice the gas level in my vehicle until after I picked up the table, and then I'm like, oh, I don't have any gas, so I should go and get gas. And then I'm like reaching through my pockets, looking under the seat. Didn't have my debit card, so I was in a little bit of a pickle, but luckily I was able to scrounge some change out of the cup holders. I had $9.75 in change. So I went to the gas station. A little embarrassing. I put $9.75 worth of gas in my car. And while I was in the gas station, I went up to the person, and I didn't want to say, yeah, $9.75 for gas. I just said, yeah, pump number 3, please. And then the guy announced it very loudly, so all the people behind me in the line could hear that I'm getting $9.75 in gas, which when I got my driver's license, that wasn't bad. That was like, oh, I only got $10. Cool. Dad gave me a 20. All right, I can get a package of cigarettes. I can put some gas in my car, and I have enough money left to get a coffee and drive into town and meet my degenerate friends and smoke my cigarettes and get a coffee at Tim Hortons. You know, the old lady at the Tim Hortons would be there like, "Hi, hon," and I'm just like, "Yeah, just a medium double, please. Keep the change," because it was less than $2 for that, and I had my cigarettes and gas and good old days. Good old days. Rest in peace, 2007. We loved you. You loved you. Good time. So yeah, the trails are open. I got my table. Yeah, a lady gave me a look as I turned around. I paid for the gas. I turned around and she gave me a look, and I didn't say anything, but I wanted to be like, listen, I performed at Punchlines Comedy Club, the club itself, twice. I have over 200 views on my channel. I have like 12 subscribers. Give me a break. Give me a break. Oh, rest in peace. Here's one to Punchlines Club. Ah, damn it. Just got this table. Now I'm already spilling water on it. It's okay. It's a secondhand table. Shoot. Anyways, this one's for Punchlines. Yeah, great club. Great club. Sometimes the best isn't enough. You know, especially in comedy. In comedy, sometimes the best isn't enough. This isn't doing anything. I'm just spreading it around. Ugh. Sometimes the best isn't enough. You know, there's hilarious comedians out there that will never make it. The funniest people that'll never make it in the business. And then you got Bert Kreischer. No slight on Bert, but come on, he's selling out arenas, taking his shirt off, telling stories about how he's a great parent. Yeah, sometimes the best isn't enough. I remember a guy when I used to be in door-to-door sales. I used to sell TV, internet, and home phone services, and I would go and knock on doors. And a guy that I worked with, who was like the best salesman in the whole outfit that we had. He was a great salesperson. He didn't have a driver's license. He didn't know how to drive a car. He didn't know a lot of things, really. It was a common thing to kind of be able to fool him and tell him things like scientific facts, and he would just buy it. I would tell him things, and he would just believe it. But he was an amazing salesman. His name was Les. A little dishonest sometimes. He would be at customers' houses, and it would be funny. He would tell customers that he drives a BMW, and then after they've purchased his services, and then he's leaving, they'd see him getting picked up in the driveway and by this girl who was driving this two-door Chevy Cavalier. And then he wouldn't even be getting in the front seat. Like somebody would already have gotten in the car. So like he's telling these customers that he drives a BMW, and then he's like crawling into the back of a 1997 Chevy Cavalier. It was a good car. It got us where we had to go. It's a good car. Yeah, so I mean, he was one of the best salespeople, but life just wasn't always there. I don't know what he's doing now. There were a lot of people that I worked with in that business that weren't as good of salespeople, that went on to do bigger and better things. Some of them are locked up in foreign countries, but some of them are actually, you know, they got good jobs. They're sales managers at car dealerships. You know, they went on to own their own businesses, but Les did not. And so I guess the thing is it's not always maybe your talent or what you do that defines it. Sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. Sometimes you just got to work really hard, and sometimes that isn't even enough. I know Dale and Julie, who own Punchlines Comedy Club, they put a lot of work into that place. The place was beautiful. The lineups were always good. There's a lot of local comedy shows you'll see, and you'll like scratch your head like that's what the lineup is, and they're charging money for that show. But that was never the case with Punchlines. It was always good. I don't think they ever had like a personal bias to who they put on. They just looked at what was best for the club, and then they did that. So this is for you guys. Cheers. I got my little martini here, and my black shirt, my black tie and jacket. It's a moment. Rest in peace, Punchlines. The last show was sold out. I think every show ever there should have been sold out. And St. John doesn't know what it had. A little bit of lemon. Lemon's nice. All right, let's get into this. a story I followed there a little while ago. St. John, New Brunswick. I don't know why I said St. John. New Brunswick in general, the Maritimes, Canada. We have a shortage of doctors. I don't think we can pick and choose who we have as doctors. We just got to like, oh, you have a license, you can perform medicine. Okay, yeah, sure. No, yeah, we don't get picky with those kind of people. And a recent story that came across my radar was this doctor in New Brunswick who was charged. I guess he touched someone in the ER in Nova Scotia and Amherst. Got a little handsy with one of the patients, so now he's being charged with sexual assault. When I read the article like 4 or 5 times because it was confusing, but from what I perceived in the article, he's still working. Yeah, no, whenever he does examinations now, I guess he needs to be supervised by somebody. But that's how tough it is for us to have doctors here. Is we're not going to let you go. If you're sexually assaulting the patients, well, you can stay on, but we're just going to have to supervise you. And this wasn't the first time. This wasn't the second time. I guess this guy has gotten in trouble a few times. Am I pronouncing the name right? Sanjeev Sirpal? Yeah, I don't wonder where he's from. Huh. It is what it is. But he's still working. He got in trouble in Miami, I guess. Got in trouble in Quebec. And then in Nova Scotia. Now he's working in New Brunswick. I guess his clinical work is being suspended at the moment. Now he's just doing, like, I don't know, I guess ER stuff. The article wasn't very clear. It was a CBC article, and I did notice that they did put a thing there where if he's doing breast exams, no matter the gender, he will be supervised. Something tells me Mr. Sirpal isn't getting handsy with like overweight men. I could be wrong. Maybe he doesn't discriminate. Maybe he's going to touch everybody. These are all allegedly accusations. He is yet to be determined to be guilty in a court of law. I'm sure Mr. Sirpal is totally innocent and didn't do anything at all. But he's still working. He's supervised. And to his patients, I'm sorry. This sucks. Whether you were touched or not, you're all getting fucked right now. Because if you had something to do with his clinical practice, you are now on the waiting list with most of us in New Brunswick, including myself, which sucks. I can imagine there were a few people that were on his list of patients that just were like, no, I don't care. No, he can touch me. Don't put me on the waiting list. Don't put me on the waiting list, please. I don't want to be on the waiting list. It sucks. It sucks, Mr. Sirpal. Whatever you were doing, I'm not here to judge. I am actually judging. I'm going to judge a lot. Mr. Sirpal, touching people. I mean, what are they going to do? They're not going to fire him. We need doctors. What is he going to do? Go work at Tim Hortons? Is he going to drive a truck? We have enough truckers out there driving off the road. We don't need him there jerking off to something on, the phone and then running into a family. If he was a truck driver, he wouldn't be supervised like he is now in the ER room. And I saw the story originally posted on Facebook, and there was a lot of racist comments in the thread. I'm not saying these. I'm just saying what I saw. So don't be getting at me. But if you are getting at me, make sure you drop in the comments. Maybe you're not going to drop a like, but drop in the comments because we need to get the algorithm going here. Like and subscribe, please. It would be nice. So yeah, a lot of judgy comments talking about how Mr. Sirpal, is Indian. So therefore, obviously, he's a pervert. I didn't like that. I didn't think that was good. I don't think all Indians are perverts. And then there was these very uneducated comments about, like, of course, a guy from the Middle East is touching people. And I'm like, I don't like to get into the Facebook comments, but I did chime in on there. I was like, India's in Asia. Asia's a big continent. So he's not from the Middle East, and even people saying that, you should be aware, Jesus himself is from the Middle East. Jesus was from the Middle East, not from Asia, but from the Middle East. And I know people want to lump that whole area into just being the Middle East, and There's a lot we don't know about Jesus. Jesus came from a long time ago. I mean, for all we know, maybe Jesus was a pervert. I've said in my stand-up many times, I believe Jesus had a really big cock. I think he did. I know that God sent him. The story is that God sent him to die for our sins. I don't think he sent him with nothing. He had something. I think maybe Jesus was like the Andrew Tate of his day. Just going around performing miracles, just laying the pipe into people. And now his descendants, because he probably made a lot. He was like Genghis Khan, probably had a lot of offspring because he was going around performing miracles in people. And now his descendants are, they're everywhere. And every time that you see a story about like a Sir Paul or some guy from the Middle East getting a little handsy, maybe conducting some human trafficking, just know that these might be descendants of Jesus, and they're just doing what their culture wants of them. It's a cultural thing. I was a part of a comedy chat recently. There's a show happening in Bathurst, and the guy invited us all to be in like the chat for the show, which is how a lot of comedy shows are organized, in Facebook chats, and we're all just doing our thing. Like in a usual Facebook chat for comedians, we like make jokes and poke fun at each other and have some fun. And then there's this guy that nobody knows who he is. He's a part of the MB comedy group, so he was able to join that chat. And we love outsiders. We don't judge. His name suggested that perhaps he's from the Middle East or the western part of Asia. Western part of Asia. And he decided, instead of like dropping some ha-has or maybe like asking questions about like when the show is, he just started dropping links to porn videos. And like they weren't just like links. The link has like the picture, and it was like this woman spread eagle having a male member being inserted into her. And like he dropped the same link several times. That was interesting. Just practicing his culture, maybe. I don't know. It is what it is. I wonder if like perverts in the Middle East, when they hear about Canada and they're like, oh, I'm going to Canada, and everybody looks at them and be like, the women there, they love to be touched. Maybe these people are coming here with just false information, and then immigration isn't like saying that. They're like telling them like the things that they normally tell everybody, but they also don't say, hey, but don't be like a big pervert here, wherever you're working, whether it's Tim Hortons or a doctor at the hospital. By the way, why do we have so many people coming into the country, but yet we don't have any more doctors? Like we've got lots of Tim Hortons workers, lots of takeout people. There's food trucks everywhere. A bar that I was at a couple weeks ago, they had this big food truck in the yard, and they were just blaring like Indian hip-hop music, like obnoxiously loud. I think maybe inside the kitchen in the little food truck is loud, so he didn't know how loud he was actually like blaring this music. It was very obnoxious. I thought about going and ordering food, but I was just like, I didn't know, like maybe if I go up and order the food like halfway through making the food, he'd be like, oops, sorry, I got a Uber Eats order, and he just shuts the door and just drives the whole truck off. You never know. Yeah, Jesus is from the Middle East. Be understanding. Jesus is probably a pervert. So that's it. The doctor, he's touching people. Allegedly, he's sexually assaulting people, but we're not gonna give him up a job. We gotta wait and see how these charges lay out. I'd be interested to see if he's convicted, and they're just like, yeah, we're gonna do a weekend jail thing where you go to jail on the weekends, but then you work at the hospital during the week. That might be interesting. Nothing would surprise me at all. Anybody who's heard this story about this home invasion that happened recently, I believe it was in Ontario. This guy who was allegedly wanted by the police for other things breaks into buddy's house and gets the shit kicked out of him. I don't think he was killed. I think he just had the bejesus kicked out of him, which you should. If you break into someone's house, you should have the shit kicked out of you by the homeowner. You should get thrown out with the garbage, and then the garbage just take you away, no questions asked. But that's not how we do it in Canada. The homeowner is arrested and charged. That's nice. In America, Now, a little backstory about me. When I was raised, we didn't have a lot of money, so for a long time we just had the three channels. I had like the rabbit ears on my TV, and I'd have the three channels, and then finally my mother got us like real television. Everybody that I knew that got cable or satellite, Canadian TV has a lot of Canadian channels. We have American channels, but we have to have American content, or we have to have Canadian content on there as well. Like, it's like the radio. We have to play Bryan Adams so many times a day on the radio because it's the law. So Canadian cable and satellite, they have to have a lot of Canadian programming because it's the law. But my mom, because the Canadian TV and the satellite or cable is very expensive, so we got our TV from a guy in a Walmart parking lot. He was in the trunk of his car. I didn't know if my mom was doing, at the time, I didn't know, she didn't tell me, it was a surprise. I didn't know if she was like doing some kind of drug deal, or we were getting weapons. I didn't know what was going on. I'd saw some movies at that point, some VHS tapes, and I was like, what's mom doing? What's that big box that she's getting out of there? Which I came to learn later on, it was a DirecTV satellite system. And for those unfamiliar, DirecTV is like the Rogers satellite internet of America. Like DirecTV, Sunday night ticket football, like DirecTV is a big freaking deal. And it's expensive. If you live in America, DirecTV it costs a lot of money. And if you want to have all the channels, that costs even more money. But because we had the stolen satellite system, it was all free. But she had to pay an upfront cost to get the satellite system, and then every once in a while our channels would disappear, and we'd have to go to this lady's house in the trailer park, and she would like put the DirecTV satellite receiver had like a card in it, which is like your SIM card for your receiver. We'd have to take that card to her, and she'd have to put it in her little machine and program it again, and then we'd get all the channels back, which was great. The pay-per-view was all free. Like, you'd have to like press like order, the order button, but it would just say $0. Everything was free. When Little Nicky came out, I watched that movie like 15 times in the first weekend. I loved that movie, and I didn't get to try Popeye's chicken until like a couple months ago. It was great. As a kid, I'm like, Popeyes, that looks great. Why can't we get Popeyes? No, we don't have Popeyes. And my mom would always have to explain to me, this is American TV. All the channels are American. So I guess what I'm getting at with this is I was raised on American TV and porn. Let's be honest here. There was a lot of free stuff on there. So I watched, and then one of the times that we went to have that little card rewritten, the lady, I could hear her in the other room. She's like, "Geez, watching a lot of porn, eh?" And then my mom's like, "Get rid of it." And I'm like sitting in the other room like, damn it. We kept the DirecTV, but all those goody channels were blocked, unfortunately. Which, probably good for my health. And then also the movie 40 Days and 40 Nights was on there. And there was a nice little like scene at the start of the movie. So I just watched that on repeat a lot because I didn't have the other channels. Maybe I'm not going where I wanted to with this topic. So yeah. Moral of the story is I was raised on American TV, a lot of American TV, and maybe that's why I don't like jive totally with some of my peers in Canada, because they were raised, sipping the maple syrup their whole life. Like, what they think of America is what they've been told of America by Canadian television. State-sponsored TV has informed them of like what they think of America, versus as a kid, I wanted to live in America. I'm like, America looks awesome. You got fast cars, guns, women. It's a great place. But I love Canada too. I don't love Canada as like an institution. I just like the people that I know here, my friends and my family. I like the geography, I'm not like loyal to a system. Like, if the Canadian government were to collapse and we became something else entirely, but I got to stay here and all my friends and family are okay, and like, I'm able to go to the park and live my life here. That's all I care about. I don't have like a loyalty to a state. I'm not a patriot, I guess, as you'd say. I'm just loyal to my friends and family. So when the government tells people like me to like choose the government over my friends and family, they're barking up the wrong tree. I'm just gonna say. So that's probably why my approach to COVID wasn't what NBC or CBC would have wanted. Whatever. I'm getting a little bit off the beaten path here. So yeah, in America, if you get into an altercation with a fella, maybe it's not even in your house, maybe you're at the park and he like says something to you about your daughter or your wife, or just like gets in your face, and then maybe you lose your cool and you like beat the shit out of the guy. Before the police get there, if you put like a knife in his hand, make sure you wipe the prints off. I'm not giving you I'm not telling you how to do this. This is not that kind of program. But if you happen to put like a knife in the guy's hand, and then the police get there and you're like, this dude had a knife and he was going to try to stab me and I beat the shit out of him and I hit him the wrong way and now he's laying on the ground. He's not alive anymore. There's a chance you're going to get off because they're like, no, this was self-defense. And then go one step further. Maybe you're like at home and someone literally breaks into your house and they're a danger to you and your family, and you pop them with a bat, or maybe you shoot them with the gun that you legally own, and they don't live anymore after that. There's a good chance that you will still go on to be a free person because you were kind of doing what you as a homeowner should and protecting your family. You did the right thing because this person broke into your house. Maybe they were trying to steal your TV and they weren't going to do you any harm, but when the guy's sitting there with a ski mask in your front door, he's got a bat, it's hard to like make those judgment calls, and you might just be like, I'm going to protect my family because like what a person should do. But that's not what we're doing here in Canada anymore, right? So if you think that someone breaks into your house and they're like even like telling you like, I'm going to do you and your family harm, just accept the fact that after you beat the crap out of this dude, you're probably going to go to jail. Cuz I don't know where else to go with that. Maybe the government expects you to be like really good at de-escalation, or maybe the government's just like, we just want you to leave. That's my theory. Maybe I'm going to let you in on a little conspiracy time here. Conspiracies on the Jeremy Scott program. Canada is like a beautiful place. And it's known around the world as like a beautiful place. And like really wealthy people in the United States and other places in the world, they vacation in Canada. And someday, when the water isn't as fit to drink, or maybe because of the climate change, or like how things progressively change with the world, because our planet isn't just like this perfect globe that just floats around in the universe. Like we're flying in space around this giant fireball that's flying through space at so many 1,000 million whatever miles an hour. The planet isn't going to always be the same. So whether you want to call it climate change or whether you want to call it just the natural progression of how the weather works, at some point, certain parts of the world aren't going to be as habitable as they are now. And the wealthy people are aware Canada's a good place to be. All right? There's good water here. There's foliage, there's good views, and a lot of them vacation up here. So my theory, as far as conspiracy theories go, is they want us to leave. So when you're getting on Facebook and you're complaining, like, look at what the government's doing, look at what Justin Trudeau or Carney or any of these guys, look what they're doing to this country. It's not because of stupidity. It's intentional. They want you to leave. They want us to be discouraged and to go somewhere else. And I'm telling you, don't leave. Don't change either. Don't like turn into these like weirdos from Ontario pretending to be rich when they're not. They're just running up credit cards and just living in debt, going out to fancy restaurants, putting on an image, posting on your Instagram every week, like, look at where I'm working out, look at where we're having dinner, look at it's so nice, look at we're doing the right things. No. If you want to be trash, be trash. Do it with some class. I got right on the other side of my little camera there, I got an old snowmobile that I plan on using this winter. Now people in the trail are going to judge me. They're going to like look at the guy with the 30-year-old snowmobile that smokes and is loud It's not great for the environment. Why doesn't he spend 20 grand to buy a new snowmobile? Because I'm trash with class, people, okay? My snowmobile's old, but it still looks really good. It looks good. I like it. I'm happy with it. It's my thing. It makes me happy. So don't leave, people. Don't fall into the propaganda of like, let's move to America where things are better. You know, maybe you will move to America and pay less tax. And then all that money you save in taxes, you can buy a health plan, and then you will actually see a doctor. Because like the perception here in Canada is like we get free doctors, but like you can't really see a doctor unless you're like dying, and then you're going to get like the bare minimum. But it is what it is. Don't leave, okay? Don't leave. Have faith a little bit. We've been sipping the Kool-Aid for too long, guys and gals. We've been sipping the Kool-Aid for too long. I get it. Not everybody was raised on DirecTV, American Satellite. You know, some of you have been like watching CBC your whole life, and you've been sipping the maple syrup for so long that you can't tell the difference anymore. Right? I've always said that the Maritimes, the eastern part of Canada, is kind of like the Shire of North America. And we're the Shire. It's a very kind of a peaceful place. It's changed a little bit lately, but it's a peaceful place. We're like tall hobbits. You know, we're like tall hobbits that would pay cash for an inspection sticker because like it costs a lot to get those rocker panels repaired, but we need a car to get places. But we're a peaceful people. You know, if you go downtown and you see all the beer and you see people with the mugs, they're just tall hobbits. They've been sipping the maple syrup, believing the propaganda for a long time. And it's sad. It's sad because I think these are like some of the best people in the world, and they mean well and they care, but they've just been manipulated, all right? And the people that maybe should be taking some accountability and responsibility for the state of our economy, they don't care. You know, the boomers and the rich, the only time they seem to care is when Trump gets elected. You know, Carney had this whole thing, elbows up, everybody. You know, make sure, if you're going to buy junk food, make sure it's Canadian junk food. You want to get diabetes patriotically. And the whole elbows up movement, it was like, what's the message you're sending here? Is it just like, hey, Trump isn't going to fuck you. If anybody is going to fuck you, it's going to be your own government. Because we've been working hard. And you could tell that because the people, they've been drinking the maple syrup so long, they've bought into things, they have empathy, but they're careful where they're going to place it. Now, the empathy that they've had lately is like we have all these fires that are happening, and these fires are burning down houses, and they're just like, this is terrible. There are people losing their homes right now to nature. So nature is taking away the homes. That's bad. They maybe get upset at the hikers or like people who are upset that they're losing their freedom and not getting to go into the woods. So they get upset at them, but they're like, this is the tragedy. These people are losing their homes. But then when it isn't a fire and then the people are just losing their homes due to like poor economic decisions by our government, then they're like quick to be like, oh, well, I guess that's just the way that it is, you know. What can you do? And this isn't me saying vote conservative. All right? I'm not. People will say this about me. I think they just make the assumption that I'm like a conservative. I'm actually a very liberal person. If you take out a dictionary and look at the definition of liberal, that's where I fit. I'm a liberal and a conservative, which most people are. Most people, maybe they don't realize this. You don't have to take out a dictionary. You don't have to pick it up. You know that little thing in your pocket that you watch like people dance around and talk bullshit on all the time? Maybe you're watching this video on that. You could go to Google and there's a dictionary there. So you could look up liberal, definition of liberal, and then definition of conservative, and you'd see like, oh, that kind of fits me at certain points at about different things. We're all liberal and conservatives. I think the only people that aren't liberal or conservative are like politicians that claim that they are part of the Liberal Party or the Conservative Party. They don't really align with that dictionary definition. So, anyways, I'm a very liberal guy, and I have no alignments to any political party. I don't think voting in anybody is going to do things for us. It is just not. So I'm not saying the answer here is like we need to vote the conservatives in so then we aren't losing our homes or paying $3,000 a month for rent. The solution is something else. I'm not here with those answers. I'm just trying to bring down the idea of like the maple syrup propaganda that everybody's been put into. It is what it is, guys. It is what it is. I miss the bread bowl. I'm just gonna say it now. I miss the bread bowl from Tim Hortons. Maybe you don't remember. A long time ago, Tim Hortons had this thing. It was supposed to be like a bowl of bread. It was actually like a rubber shoe, really. And then soup would go into the rubber shoe, and then after you had the soup, you could then consume the rubber shoe afterwards. And as a hungover Jeremy Scott, I loved the bread bowl. I loved everything about 2007. I loved the Subway. Remember Subway in 2007? You know, I'd go and get the sweet onion chicken teriyaki, and I'd feel good about it. You know, if you met a girl or a guy, whatever you're into, and you're like, hey, do you want to go get something to eat? And you're like, I don't want to spend a lot of money, but we're not going to McDonald's. You go to Subway, and then they wouldn't think ill of you. Subway had like a smell. It had a vibe. It was nice. It was good. I remember illegal weed. You know, that was nice. I don't even smoke pot anymore. But illegal weed was nice. I always said, like, if you couldn't get it when it was illegal, you didn't deserve it. I knew a guy that lived down the hall from me. He had MS, like severe. He had like these little crutches and stuff like that, and he could find weed. He could barely walk, but he'd actually ask me to come over to his house or down to his apartment like every couple weeks, and I'd roll a bunch of joints for him because he couldn't roll them, but he liked having joints. So I'd roll all his weed up for him. I miss those days. I miss going to Tim Hortons with my friends, and like, you know, I'd have $20. I'd get some, like I said earlier, I'd get some gas. I'd get a pack of smokes. I'd go and get a coffee, give the Tim Hortons girl a little tip. You know, she looked like she'd smoked like 100 cigarettes that day, and she'd hand me my coffee and be like, there you go, hon. And I'm like, oh, this is nice. I didn't actually like it at the time. Remember, I used to say to my friends in the car, I'd be like, oh, I don't like how she calls me hon. Ooh, and they're like, what's your problem, man? She's a nice lady. I'm like, yeah, I know, but she's gross. Why does she have to call me hon? And now I'm looking back, and when I go to Tim Hortons and I don't even really understand what the person's saying, and I have to repeat over and over again what I want in my coffee, and they're like cream, and I'm like, I didn't say cream, I said espresso. I miss the smoker lady. I was going somewhere with that. Maybe. Whatever. I hope you like the new studio design. It's going to be here for a little while. I've extended it. We're in widescreen now. The shot is wider. It's not as focused in on me. It's a bigger studio. I got a real table. Before, I had like this Costco fold-out plastic table. It's actually the table that I use for my show that I do at Mama's Pub called This Might Be Funny. That's the table that I use. So every time that I would go do that show, I'd have to fold up my table, put it in the car, and take it there. Now it's already in the car ready to go because I have a show tonight, which I got to get ready to go to soon. I have a show tonight. We have a lot of people coming on. We have a local comic who's like rising up. His name's Boston. He's a great guy. He's hilarious. He's coming to do the show tonight. It's me, Brad Rice, and Boston on the panel. Boston's going to do a set. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be a great time, and I want people, you know, the ones who are upset about the trails, to get out there and get walking. We could all lose some weight, for sure. You know, unless you're ready to go to a doctor and get touched. You know, shout out to Mr. Sir Paul. I hope things work out in court. Well, I'm not saying I hope they work out. I hope justice is served. So if you didn't touch that lady and she's just prejudiced and was like this Indian guy, Sir Paul, you touched me, and he's like, I'm just doing exam. I hope justice is served. So if you're guilty or not guilty, whatever, let's hope it works out. And once again, sad news about Punchlines Comedy Club. I hope they come back. I hope the club makes a comeback. I hope we get a whole reinvention of that place. I hope the people that own the facility there, that own the strip club and then the dance bar, maybe they have an awakening and they're just like, yeah, maybe sweaty people like dancing and doing drugs isn't as good for the city as a great comedy club. Because Comics Punchlines Comedy Club. I was about to say Comic Sutra. Comic Sutra is a new club here in Fredericton. I wish that place well. But Punchlines was just on a whole other level. It was a special place. It meant a lot to me. I really wanted that to be the first place that I headlined at. Unfortunately, now that's not going to happen. But I will never forget that. You know, big shout out to all the places that don't exist anymore. Like the first place that I ever did comedy at wasn't even a comedy club. It was just a bar that had an open mic. It was like a music open mic, and they let me do comedy. There was a place called the Broken Record in Fredericton. Unfortunately, that closed down. That place was special. Punchlines Comedy Club, that's closed down. It's like a lot of like really special places. They don't last, and it's sad. It's just sad. I'm gonna see you next week, folks. Actually, one more little thing here. I made a plea there. Not a plea. That's pathetic. It wasn't a plea. I had a message for CBC there a few shows ago. You know, I told them, you know, I'm coming for them. It wasn't an empty threat. I'm doing the show every week. The show is still going. It's not going to stop. I'm going to go. I'm not going to stop. But I did give them an offer. I said, and the offer is changing now because they had to take it then. The offer originally was I wanted them to give me 100,000. Did I say Canadian dollars or U.S. dollars? Whatever. Let's just pretend it was U.S. dollars. I'd like a little bit more money. The original offer was $100,000 and a 2006 Mustang GT with a manual transmission. I don't want it all beat up. I want something that's been well maintained, preferably something from the southern United States so it doesn't have any rust. That was the offer. Now the offer is a little bit more. You know, the numbers in the car are still the same. I just would like a better microphone. And I'm going to need a heat pump for my studio so it doesn't get cold in the winter. Yeah, that's it, really. Yeah, just a better microphone. I would like to do multiple camera angles, so maybe some extra cameras. But I won't get picky. So, yeah. That offer is going to expire in 2 weeks, and as well too, if you're watching the program right now, I am currently seeking a producer. I don't know if you can tell by the audio; it's not the best. The edits, I'm doing all this myself in house. I really need a producer, and I have a few things that I'd like. You know, they're not all set in stone. I'm going to take what I can get. Beggars can't be choosers. I would like them to be trans. I'm just saying, I'd like them to be trans and as well to have conservative views. You know, if they're like an open conservative, if they're like trans and an open conservative, that would be interesting. I would like somebody who's kind of like a bit of an opposite of me. I don't want an echo chamber in here. I want multiple voices. You know, as like I just said, I'm actually a really liberal guy, and I am not trans. So somebody who's trans and conservative. And then also, clearly, if you're going to be a producer, you need to be very tech savvy. I need you to be able to do my audio work and video work. You know, if you could follow me around with a camera, because I'd like to do more things outside of the studio, but a tripod and stuff is not really feasible for the kind of videos that I would like to be doing. So yeah, like I said, a producer, trans, conservative, tech savvy. This is a Jeremy Scott program. I'll see you next week, guys.